Well, good afternoon, everyone. Rick Willis, President and CEO of the Brain Injury Association of America. Really delighted to be with you this afternoon and delighted that we have such a great group who is signed up to join us today. We still have some folks that are signing on to the technology in this platform. So, technology these days takes an extra minute, but we're going to, in the interest of time, go ahead and kick things off because we know that you all have tight schedules and we want to keep it really punchy for you this afternoon. And so for folks who join after we've already begun, this session will certainly be recorded. Just as thrilled as can be to have such a great representation from our community joining us today for the first look at the Brain Injury Association of America's 3-year strategic plan. And we have a number of folks that are going to be presenting here with me today, and you'll see them coming up on screen here. We have with us just a number of key individuals who are going to be sharing with you some of the content that we have. But notably, I do want to call out some of those who will be presenting later on in the program. We have our chair of BIAA Strategy and Planning Committee, Joanne Finnegan. So you can see her picture on the screen and up on the ribbon. We have our chair of our board of directors, Paige Melton-Ivy, is with us. And our co-chair of BIAA's Survivors Council, Carol Starr, who's going to be my co-host for our program this afternoon. So Carol's going to be with us here in just a minute. And Dr. Michael Williams, who will be with us a little later in the program as well. But what we were hoping to do here today is to share with you some of the context, if you will, and some of the highlights of our strategic plan. You'll receive a copy of it via email, but what we're really wanting to communicate to you here today is what we believe and hope would be a shared vision for our community. It's been our organizational goal throughout the year to bring forward this plan that would really clarify our strategic focus over the next 3 years, as well as what quantifies success. But I think that it's fair to say that we cared as much about how we got there as we did about the plan itself, because as I said, we wanted it to be something that was a shared vision for our community. And so I hope that what you hear will resonate with you, and that if I could be so bold, you might even see yourself in terms of the role that you can play in helping to move that forward. I want to just give you a preview of how we're going to do this, and then I'm going to pass it to my partner in crime here this afternoon, Carol, just to make some introductory comments as well. So as I said, we want to give you an overview, talk you through some of particularly the 3-year goals, and not just the what, but the why as well. And we want you to hear from the individuals who I was highlighting just a moment ago, because we want you to hear from folks who've been involved in this process and to be able to share their insights and what it really means to them. We want this to be as interactive as possible, and with such a big group on the phone here today, it's not possible certainly to have live Q&A and back and forth, but we certainly do encourage you to chat using the chat feature, to chat in any questions that you might have, and we're going to try to save a few minutes at the end to see if we can address some of the most common questions, and then if we need to frame some responses to others more specifically, we can do that and package those in a follow-up communication. We're also going to have a couple places where you can indicate or respond to what you're seeing on the screen via a QR code. So if you have your cell phone with you, and I'm sure you do, you'll want to get your camera ready. And then last but most definitely not least, we do have a very special guest at the end with sort of a surprise announcement. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger there, but I promise you won't be disappointed. So Carol, as we said a moment ago, you are the co-chair of BIAA's Survivors Council, and I wonder if you could maybe introduce yourself to the folks, and maybe also then just comment, if you will, on what you're excited about here today and what this plan represents.
Absolutely, yes. So I am a going on 25-year brain injury survivor. And like so many, brain injury changed my life forever. I was not able to go back to the life I led before. I am now a speaker and an author, and a very delighted co-chair of the Brain Injury Advisory Council. And so happy to be part of BIAA and to be able to use my experience to make a difference for others. And it's been an honor and a privilege to have been part of this process, along with other council members, to have shared our experience and to to be able to see our stories, to see our opinions in this final document, just to see all of the voices that you included in this. So that's what I'm really excited about, is how you've taken all that listening that you did from all the different stakeholders in brain injury and brought this together into a plan.
Well, that's terrific. And Carol, it really warms my heart to hear you say that, because I think that was certainly what we hope to achieve. And so I think that now maybe what we might do is let's dive into it and start, see if we can begin to give the folks a sense of what this is all about. So you're going to see on the screen here in front of you, this is a view that, again, you'll receive directly. And I want to, before I dive into the specific components, I wanted just to give you a quick overview of the process for how we got here in developing our plan. As I said earlier, we're hoping that this will become a shared vision for our community, and that it really represents that based on the feedback that we received, and that, as I said, you could see yourself in it, and that it would resonate with you in maybe the ways that Carol was describing, that you could see how you can play a part in advancing that. But we also thought that it was very important that our plan be something that anyone, no matter how long they've been involved with the organization, what their context is, or what their frame of reference might be, they might be able to read this and be able to quickly get a sense of who we are, what we do, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. And so we chose a tool that, as you see on the screen here, that we believe will give that at a glance view and be very readable. As I said, it was something, and you heard Carol allude, that this was something that was built based upon the feedback from you, from our community, and from the different stakeholder groups that we conducted qualitative interviews with, including our affiliates and our previous board members, our board alumni who've had the context and perspective on our work, and our survivors and caregivers and our providers. But we worked very collaboratively with BIAA's board of directors, and then took that feedback, and really, I have to give it to them. They spent a lot of time behind the scenes, really taking that feedback and using that to craft the specific content that we're going to go through here with you today. And then the last step was that we sought feedback. Once we had a workable draft of the plan, then we took that to some of our key partners, the CDC, for example, to be able to get some input from them and use this to talk about how we can work together in the days ahead. So let me just give you a couple of highlights, starting on the left side of the screen, and I'm going to work from our core values, then to our core focus, the 10-year target, and our audience and the marketing strategy. Our core values, what I want you to see here, and again, I hope that when you have a chance to read this more in depth, when you receive your copy of it, really represent not only who we believe we are, but who we also aspire to be more of in the future. So, of course, we want to change lives and make an impact. That's what we're about. We want to innovate and elevate best practices and new approaches, and really make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to delivering solutions for our community. And we not only want to deliver best in class ourselves, but we want to support others in amplifying that and also delivering best in class. And boy, do we want to do it big. We want to think big. We want to challenge ourselves and our partners, because the work that we do is so vitally important. But, as we have these ambitious goals that are around driving achievements for our community, we want to make sure that how we do it also factors in. So we want to care for one another and build that supportive community along the way. On the left, moving down sort of counterclockwise to our core focus, this language should hopefully feel very familiar to you in some ways, because our vision, I don't know, changed significantly, but our mission statement did undergo some significant work. And I had folks that asked me when we started out that said, well, hey, would we consider sort of massaging the language in our mission statement? And boy, did we. I hope that what you'll see is that we brought up further into the statement the individual, the person who's affected by brain injury. And so we brought that up earlier in the process. And we were more specific in terms of how we're advancing quality of life, including the addition of the word prevention. And that's a big word, but we're already doing a lot of that work today. And we feel like we can encapsulate that and do more of that, because certainly we want to be making the impact for our community, but we also want to be speaking to how others can prevent brain injury. And as we continue on the left side, excuse me, our 10-year target is really our true north. It is If you're a Jim Collins fan, it's our big, hairy, audacious goal, or our BHAG, if you will. And there's three things there I want you to see. One is unifying, that we believe that as we move ahead, it's important that we're working together with our partners and our community members and our stakeholders as the voice of brain injury. But as we do that, our community should be growing in order that we can have greater reach and greater impact and a more powerful voice. So we've tried to quantify what that would look like, 1 million engaged constituents. And we, of course, have to have resources, no money, no mission. So we have to be growing our resources to accelerate that. And we've quantified what we want that to be as $25 million. Moving from there to the right, we've also defined in an effort to make sure that we're really delivering what it is that our key audiences need. We had to define and really bring to the center who those audiences are. And it should be no surprise that when you read the language and see that we see our key audiences as those who have, care for, or treat someone who has been affected by brain injury. And we've tried to define what they can expect from us and how we can be better at reaching them and what they can expect to receive by being involved. So that's a little bit of an overview of the highlights, if you will, and sort of the spirit of what you see represented on the left-hand side. And what I'd like to do with you now is begin to walk you through some of the specific goals over the next 3 years, which unless you have really strong glasses, we're not going to expect you to read. So we're going to actually highlight some of those for you specifically. And I want to start by talking about one of the goals that's specifically related to our affiliate network. You may know that the Brain Injury Association of America has 26 wonderful partners in our state affiliates all around the country. And what we know about that work is that that's where the rubber meets the road, to be honest with you. That's where the activities, the access to resources, the connections, that's where that work happens. And we also know that in order for that to succeed, that there is support that BIAA can provide to strengthen that network to ensure that those in local communities who need our help are able to get connection to the resources that they so critically need. And that we also believe that one of the ways that we can do that is by, of course, elevating best practices. And lastly, you'll see reference to the word territory map there. There are places around the country, and you might be in one of them as you're on the line here with us today, that maybe don't necessarily have your local version of BIA accessible to you. And so we think that there's ways that we can strengthen that footprint and that coverage so that wherever you are, you would be able to have access to the support and resources that we know that our community so desperately needs. So that's a highlight about our affiliate goal. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to pass it back to my co-host, Carol, who's then going to kind of take us through some of the rest of our agenda. We'll hear from some of our other presenters. But I want to speak to one other of our 3-year goals, and that has to do with engagement. And if you've been involved with the Brain Injury Association of America for any length of time, you may have noticed, as I have, now that I've crossed the 1-year threshold with BIA, that we believe that there's an opportunity for us to bring together, to have a moment in time, if you will, where we can bring together the entire community to celebrate and to recognize and to unify around our vision moving ahead and how we can accomplish that together. But we need that moment, we need that place, and we believe that would be by putting a stake in the ground, if you will, and hosting a national conference for the first time in many, many years. And we believe that it's not so much about the conference as it is about our community and about our people and having that place where we can do all the things I just described. So you will begin to see us making plans and building towards launching that, as I said, as you can see on the screen there, in the year 2025. So that's all from me from now. We have others who are going to take you through some of the other goals in the plan. But Carol, to do that, I'm going to pass the mic back over to you and certainly welcome you to add any commentary or take us on to our next presenter.
Absolutely, yes. I know as an educator and an advocate, the idea of a national conference is really exciting to me. That opportunity to bring together people to learn from each other, to network with one another. So I really look forward to that. So now it's my honor to introduce Paige Melton-Ivy, who is the chair of BIAA's board of directors, and she is going to be talking about awareness, another important goal.
Thank you, Carol, so much for your helping out today, and your advocacy on behalf of BIA. You have a very powerful story, and we're so grateful for you. So thank you. I've been a caregiver for my husband for 20 years, and I'm really ready for this strategic plan, and I'm looking forward to the places that we are all going to go together with it. One of the exciting things for me is our goal to elevate the awareness about brain injury. I mean, we're going to talk more about the frequency of brain injuries and the long-term implications for survivors and their caregivers, that brain injury really is a chronic condition and it needs to be treated that way. I've learned all this from the doctors on the BIAA board. They've helped us shape this. Our medical director, Dr. Brent Maisel, and Dr. John Corrigan, who's the leader of the Ohio TBI model system. So what do we want people to know? Well, someone has a brain injury every 9 seconds. I did the quick math, and that's 400 people if we stay on this meeting for 1 hour. That's a lot of folks impacted. And everyone knows someone who's had a brain injury from a sports concussion or a car accident, a stroke, a fall, or lack of oxygen. There's so many out there. But not everybody understands that. So for the person with the brain injury, the impact isn't always a one-time event. You don't just, like you break your arm and you get a cast on it and you heal a few weeks later and you're done with it and you move on with your life. A survivor of a brain injury can spend the rest of their life with the symptoms from the injury, and we need more tools for that, and that's what this plan is going to help us do. So we want the world, and I mean the media, the public, policymakers, our community, everyone, to recognize brain injury as chronic conditions. So what does that get us? Dr. Corrigan likens it to treatment for diabetes, for instance, which is another chronic condition, and it's treated as such. So someone with type 1 diabetes knows, and the people around them know, that they need to actively manage that condition for the rest of their lives. And that's regular doctor visits, testing supplies, medication that's covered by insurance, and just taking care of their overall health. We want survivors of brain injuries who need it to have the same thing. We want brain injuries to be recognized, diagnosed, treated, and covered so that the survivors and their caregivers have the tools they need to manage their lives and have the quality of life that they all deserve. Tall order, yes. To get there, we need your help, and that advocacy comes in, which is the next one of our goals in our plan. With you, we're going to be a leader in this space on this, with federal agencies on Capitol Hill and the states working alongside our affiliates. We're going to influence the federal budget, agency rules, congressional legislation, and state legislation that will pay for research and services and improve insurance coverage and access to care. So many of you all have compelling stories, so powerful in trying to get more for our survivors. I'm in awe of Carol and the other survivors and their families and what they've overcome since brain injuries affected their lives. We need to hear more of that. For our family, for my daughters and me, advocating on behalf of Robert and telling his story and the challenges he continues to face 20 years in after the brain injury, that helped us a lot, helped us personally, and I hope we did some good with it. My girls started with a lemonade stand, raising money for the Brain Injury Association. We're very small, and they're still at it in their 20s. And I hope we've educated some folks. So if you're a survivor or caregiver or a doctor or a therapist or anyone who's been touched by brain injury, your stories can help educate too. And we need you to help us paint this picture for everyone who doesn't get it. March is Brain Injury Awareness Month, and it's coming up quickly, and it's a chance for everybody to get involved, everybody on this call, to help us spread the word. We'll be on Capitol Hill March 5th and 6th, so please come if you can, or help us in your own community if that works better. You can see the QR code that's right there on your screen to get involved, but you can always go to the BIAA website and get updates on what we're planning in March in Washington. I hope to see you all there. It would be fantastic if we could get a great turnout and make the splash that our cause deserves. Or tell me what you're doing in your community to highlight brain injuries. thank you all for being here. I look forward to seeing you, and I appreciate your engagement on this really important topic for all of us. Carol?
Thank you, Paige. Advocacy, it is such an important part of the brain injury journey. I know my own advocacy journey, it began about 20 years ago. I was kind of thinking back to when did I start as an advocate? I started with a letter, writing a letter. If there was an event going on in my state at the time, I couldn't go to the State House. I couldn't go visit with legislators. That was beyond where I was at the time in my own brain injury journey. But it was an issue that was important to me, that I can write a letter. That was what I could do. And I got a letter back. And it was like, wow, it was a beginning to know that my voice matters, that it was about focusing not on what I can't do, because there was a lot that I couldn't do, but there were still things that I could do. And to me, that's part of what advocacy is focusing on what we can do, whatever that is, because it doesn't necessarily have to be really big things. It can be those small things, because our stories, they matter. They make a difference. I mean, okay, I'm going to go Latin geek now. I took 4 years of Latin. The word advocacy, it comes from the Latin word for voice. And it's using our voice. It's telling our stories. And I think as survivors, our stories are what animate legislation. I mean, we all know legislation, it can be a little dry. But when we put stories behind it, that's what people remember. And that's power. And I know as a survivor, advocating it just doesn't make brain injury worthwhile exactly, but it gives it meaning, it gives it purpose. It makes me feel like I can do something with this awful thing that happened to me, and I can make it better for other people. I can make it better for myself. And I'm excited to be able to advocate for brain injury as a chronic condition. This is something that I think a lot of survivors have known, forever. And now we're going to get legislation that's going to hopefully catch up to that reality. I mean, I'm also a support group leader, and there's a reason that people come to the support group who are, 2, 5, 10, 20 years out, because we're all still dealing with symptoms and we all still need support. And so it's exciting to think that we're going to work towards putting those more supports in place, because it's a scary time when you finish rehab and you still have symptoms, you're still struggling, and now what do you do? So this is such an important. This is I think one of the most important advocacy topics in all of my years of advocating. So now I would like to introduce Joanne Finnegan, who is the chair of BIAA's Strategy and Planning Committee, and she is going to talk about the National Brain Injury Information Center. Take it away, Joanne.
Thank you, Carol. So I'm going to use Rick's words earlier of big, hairy, audacious goal. This is really important. This was an unbelievable process of putting together the key elements of what will make a difference in our entire community. And, in sitting in and listening to a number of the groups that we spoke with, how do we reach people? How do we reach them earlier? How do we make sure that they know that we've got them and that we provide them great information and resources as early as possible and as comprehensive as possible? So while this is a very big goal in terms of trying to outreach and have that that information line be accessible and that people are aware of it earlier. And we heard that time and time again, that you go through, as Carol said, that's scary, that beginning process, and then you go home. And who's out there for me, and how do I know what else I can find that's going to allow me to continue to change and grow and get the resources that I need. So again, really an important goal and really exciting goal for BIAA to take on. So I hope that part of today is that you all spread the word. And we need that to happen so that these resources get utilized and really benefit people.
Yeah, I think that is such an important goal. I know in my own journey, it was nearly a year before I reached brain injury rehab. I call that the worst year of my life, my year in the wilderness, when I was trying to go back to work and failing, trying to go back to my old life and failing. And I think if people can get that support, the resources when they need them, it can make such a difference in their journey. They may still have brain injury symptoms, they may still deal with a changed life, but getting the right help can make such a difference in how one's journey plays out.
Exactly.
So Rick is going to take it over now, talk about treatment and research.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. And thanks, Joanne and Paige. Again, I just want to acknowledge their work along with the board and the Strategy and Planning Committee and many others in bringing us where we are today. At the Brain Injury Association of America, there are two very important parts of our work focused on what I alluded to earlier when you looked at our key, not our only audiences, but certainly our key audiences. One of them are healthcare providers. And so I know we have a number of those who are with us here on the call today. And you may be aware that one of the pillars of the Brain Injury Association of America is the Academy of Certified Brain Injury Specialists. You may not know that there are nearly 8,000 certified professionals through ACBIS, the acronym ACBIS. And we believe that this has contributed to elevating the standard of care. We know it has, and we believe that there is opportunity for us to really elevate that as we move ahead and to engage many more CBIS, more certified brain injury specialists around the country. And you also likely know that the Brain Injury Association of America about 5 years ago began funding research through what we call seed and dissertation grants. And really they're very focused on funding investigators who have novel lines of inquiry that they are approaching, and also really with a particular emphasis on funding investigators who maybe are earlier in their career, so that we can ensure that in the years ahead, as we continue to accelerate this work and to expand and to increase, as you can see on the screen, increase not only professional competency, but the opportunities that are on the horizon to take shots on goal, if you will, for research to create a bright future. We want to ensure that there is a continuing growing pipeline of that talent to really carry that work forward. And one of those individuals who is a recipient of a BIA research grant, and who is one of those shining stars, is Dr. Michael Williams, who is also here with us today. And I want to invite him just as an example to give you a bit of the flavor of some of the really exciting work that is going on through our research program, which I should say, by the way, is not only about the investment of the specific dollars that BIA is able to make, but also is being leveraged by those who are receiving those dollars into getting even more grant funding so that we can carry this work forward. But I want you to hear from Dr. Williams about the great work that he is doing as really an example of this, of how important this effort is. And so, Michael, I'm so glad you could be here with us today, and want to invite you to take the mic and tell the folks about the work that you're doing in your project.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. It's an honor to be here with all of you in this discussion of how to support people living with brain injury. I'm very grateful to the Brain Injury Association of America for their support and partnership in conducting innovative research. My lab is the Mind Lab, the Measurement and Intervention for Neuropsychological Disorders at the University of Houston, where I'm an assistant professor. And so my main focus is to advance research to improve the lives of people living with traumatic brain injury. So just to kind of share a little bit about my study, specifically with the BIAA, many individuals with traumatic brain injury have chronic pain related to the TBI or to other bodily injuries resulting from the event leading to the TBI, like a car crash or fall. Estimates suggest that about 1/3 to half of people with a TBI experience chronic pain, which is pain that persists for longer than 3 months. Pain can limit engagement in social roles and healthy lifestyle behaviors, which could contribute to the development or worsening of other chronic health conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, and so on. Our study is testing how we can use mobile technology and research among people with TBI that are also dealing with chronic pain. people in our study are asked to use a phone app to report their pain and mood throughout the day for a month and wear a smartwatch that tracks physical activity and sleep during that time. In addition, participants complete traditional clinic-based assessments with surveys of pain, mood, sleep, societal participation, and life satisfaction in our lab at baseline and at the completion of a month-long mobile technology assessment process. This is a lot that we're asking of people, but importantly, this method allows us to see how mobile technology assessments relate to traditional clinic-based assessments. Moreover, we can examine how pain relates to meaningful outcomes such as life satisfaction and societal participation, as well as explore relationships between pain, mood, and sleep. We're appreciative to our participants, and it's awesome that the BIAA grant allows us to provide research payments to our participants for sharing their time and experiences with us. We know that we're asking a lot to do this study, right? To do this technology assessment for a whole month is a lot, and so we are very grateful for that. But it is very important for us to learn how to best use technology to enhance healthcare for people with TBI. Typically, when you see your healthcare provider, they ask you to describe how you've been over some period of time, requiring memory and recall of various things, which can be hard to do for many reasons. Memory and attention problems are common symptoms of a TBI, and so real-time assessments in a person's home or community setting may reduce reporting errors caused by changes in thinking abilities or recall bias. As such, using mobile technology may offer greater precision in understanding symptoms that may come and go or fluctuate like pain. Mobile technology assessments allow people to report what's going on in real time and track these data points over time. This information can shorten clinic visits, reduce patient burden, and allow more time with providers to focus on treatments and helpful strategies. Another meaningful benefit of using mobile technology is that it offers the opportunity to support behavioral treatments by providing alerts and information at the right time. Which can be based upon symptom reporting, scheduled notices, or on demand at the person's request. Applying mobile technology with behavioral interventions or treatments is a part of our plans for future studies in the Mind Lab. So really excited about using this pilot study to support future grant projects, funded by NIH or NILR, or other large granting agencies. I hope this brief project description showcased the potential of mobile technology in improving healthcare for people with TBI. I would also like to share one more point, that this BIAA grant has supported the opportunity for undergraduate and graduate students in my lab at the University of Houston to get engaged in TBI research early on, which promotes the development of future scholars and clinicians dedicated to improving the lives of people with brain injury. And so it's not just myself that's growing in this field and in this work, but also younger folks in the field and education that are excited about TBI research and understanding what's going on and how they can help and get involved. So on behalf of myself and my team, I share a big thank you to the BIAA and all of its sponsors. Back to you, Rick.
Great. Well, Michael, thank you. The energy and the ideation and the excitement that you bring really is so very encouraging. And as I look at the future and the talent pipeline, if you will, that our research program is not only helping to build the science, but to build that pipeline, it's very encouraging. And the work that you're doing and really being a symbol of the great work that is being accomplished through BIA's research program. So thank you for being here and keep up the great work.
Yes, absolutely. And as a survivor, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat in the doctor's office and they said, "How are you?" It's like, oh, I know I have things to say, and I can't remember which symptom did I have and when, and really that idea about being able to use some technology to help make reporting more accurate. I think that's a really interesting way to approach things. And it's so good also as a survivor to know that sometimes you get really lost in your day-to-day life of, I'm just trying to live with a brain injury here. And then to know that there are researchers out there who are actively working at ways to make our lives better. I think that's also really heartening to know more about. So, Rick, I know you have a special guest to introduce now.
Well, I sure do. And Carol, I couldn't agree with you more. And really, your comments along the way, I think, again, are so very meaningful. And I trust that there are many others who feel the way that you do. And we'd certainly love to hear from some others that are out there. So just want to encourage you as we sort of round the corner here towards the final stretch of our program. Before we introduce our presenter, or beg your pardon, our speaker, our surprise announcement. Want to encourage you, if you have questions or things that you would like to know more about, we'd certainly love to be able to take a couple of those before we wrap up. So don't forget to chat in your questions. Well, I have teased long enough now about our surprise announcement, but I have to tell you that, as you might expect, to advance this work, to bring it to life, to carry it forward, to accomplish our goals, we need you. We need your volunteerism. We need your thought leadership. We need your expertise. We need your time. And as you might expect, we also need resources. It takes dollars to be able to move these goals forward. And whether it's from our Awareness Day on the Hill, or it's funding more promising researchers like what you've heard from Dr. Williams, or launching into creating more public awareness about brain injury, as you might expect, those things take financial resources. And so to really help us harness a very special opportunity, there is an individual, a friend, if I can use that expression, of the Brain Injury Association of America, and to me personally, someone who I've come to know and really appreciate his support and friendship, and that is John Del Chicato. And so, John, I want to let you just take a moment to, again, introduce yourselves to the group, and I think you have a special announcement for us here today.
We do. And for all those of you who are let down that you don't recognize who the special guest is, you may not know me, but you might know my former business partner, David Axelrod, who is a longtime friend. He hired me 22 years ago, and I ended up becoming his business partner in political consulting, and later took over the firm when he left to go work at the White House. I mention that because I am accustomed to talking about others. I'm not as accustomed to talking about myself. But I'm going to do the best I can. 2 years ago, I was in Central Ohio for work, and I made the decision to get on one of those electric scooters, a stand-up electric scooter, and I had an accident. I fell off it. I don't have any recollection of it, but I was admitted to the intensive care unit with severe traumatic brain injury. I got excellent care. I'm fully recovered. I was incredibly lucky. I really thank the people at Grant Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio, for all the work that they did. But as you might imagine, I needed a lot of follow-up. So I met with, when I moved back to New York, or when I came back to New York after that trip, I met with neurologists and neuroscientists and ENTs and audiologists, and every doctor in the book that you can imagine would be connected to brain injury to do follow-ups. I got a lot of scans, a lot of MRIs and CT scans, and fortunately, everything progressed remarkably well. But I did have a moment of clarity, I guess, when I had both a neurologist and a neurosurgeon deliver the same message. The neurologist said to me, I don't know if you're religious or if you're Jewish, but if you are, I suggest you go to temple tonight and thank God that you're alive. And the neurosurgeon said to me, and I'm sure they did not consult with each other, but this was a couple of days later, he said, I'm not sure if you're Catholic, but if you are, I suggest you go to Mass this weekend and thank the Lord that you're still alive. So it really was a moment for me to reflect upon the fact that had I not had the care that I got at Grant Medical Center in those couple of days after my injury, and the follow-up care that all of those professionals in the medical world here in New York City gave me, I wouldn't be here. And I thought to myself, how can I help? How can I do something to help others who might find themselves in a position that they don't expect themselves to be in, just like I didn't expect myself to be in it. So I did some research. I came across BIAA. I saw that they were very highly rated on Charity Navigator in terms of spending the dollars they do raise on actual care and try to limit what they spend on administration. I was really impressed when I met Rick and Paula and others that they were not obsessed only with raising money. And that was kind of unique because I've come across a lot of organizations that do really good work, but they tend to gravitate towards how do we maximize dollars to the detriment or to the exclusion of asking survivors or others who want to be involved their ideas. And that was not the case with BIAA. I felt that they were very engaging. They asked me my opinion on policy and my experience and how I could help above and beyond fundraising. And one such way is to support reauthorization of the TBI Act of 1996. It's, I think, up this year in Congress. And as somebody with a background in politics, it struck me that this is a piece of legislation that even at a moment of perhaps unprecedented, bitterly divided politics in Washington, that members from both sides of the aisle can put politics aside and actually be for something, which I frankly think a lot of Republicans and Democrats want. They want to be able to show the voters back home that they are able to do something without riling up their base or the other side's base. So I think we're in a unique position to actually push our mission forward and take advantage of the fact that so little else is considered apolitical at this time. I know I just said that BIAA was committed to things other than fundraising, but they do also understand that fundraising is what fuels the mission. So the announcement that I wanted to make today is that I have made a commitment to match donations to BIAA from today until the end of the year, dollar for dollar, up to $10,000. And I said up to $10,000 because it could be less than that. I will be matching any donation up to that amount. And the reason I bring that up is that I was traveling last weekend. I was with a friend and we were on a Delta flight, and it's getting to be the end of the year, obviously. And I said to him, I was like, you know, you want some food or can I buy you a drink? And he was kind of inquiring as to why I was suddenly so generous. And I told him that I had $30 left on my Delta flight food and drink credit that expires at the end of the year. And I said, I want to make sure I spend all this because it is a core belief of mine that you do not leave money on the table. So what I would ask of you is understanding that my match goes up to $10,000. Keep me honest, keep me to my commitment. Don't allow me to get away with less than that. So let's not leave any money on the table. I would ask that you immediately after this call, if you're able, go online and make a donation, because I would love for Paula and Rick and others to be able to hit me up and say, yep, we got every last dollar out of you. And I know it will be going towards an incredibly good cause that I'm proud to have been a part of. So thank you for your time, and I'll turn things back over to Rick.
Well, John, first of all, thank you for your friendship to our organization and to the community. And thank you for your generosity. And knowing our community the way that I do, I'm sure we're not going to leave any money on the table. Don't you worry. So John, thank you again. Well,
Yes.
before we wrap up, certainly encourage you to, as John had said, you can see on the screen, there's a QR code where you can remember BIAA in your year-end giving, and you can either use the link if you're looking at your camera or looking at your phone and you can't use your camera, you can use the link later. And as we said, let's keep John honest and keep him to that match. And again, appreciate you thinking about BIAA in your year-end giving. We have a couple of minutes, and so Carol, before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask our moderators who are behind the scenes here to let us know if maybe we have one or two questions we might be able to address. So if Paula or Laura could let us know if maybe we have one or two.
Yeah, sure, Rick. So someone asked about our vision statement and the use of the word accepted in that. So our vision being everyone in the U.S. who sustains a brain injury is recognized, treated, and accepted, and just some concern around that word and making sure that we are using that in a way that helps them feel empowered. But if you want to comment on that and just how that word was maybe chosen.
I certainly will, and I want to invite my co-presenters if they could come back on screen, because I wonder if either Carol or Paige or Joanne might want to add to that. But I'll certainly comment that what we heard from our, particularly our survivor and caregiver stakeholder group, was that they're really looking to BIA to change public perception around brain injury, and hearing that to really remove the stigma and the notion that, because when from the outside looking in, it may not appear the injury may not be apparent, and so they're really looking for us to really change that perception, to ensure that there's a recognition of what brain injury is all about, and to take that stigma away. And so, in that sense, hence you have the word accepted. But I'll certainly, with the minute that we have left, invite again my co-host Carol or Joanne and Paige, who are part of that process, if they would like to add any other commentary.
I'll just jump in quickly. My husband Robert has an anoxic brain injury, so you can't tell that he has an injury. But when it's clear that he's struggling from some challenges, and so many people have said to me, he looks fine, what's the issue, what's the problem, like that. And so I say he has a brain injury. It's, you can't see it, but he's got significant cognitive challenges. And I think, you say brain injury and there is a stigma, so we want to get rid of that. We want people to understand exactly what we're talking about, and I think that's the most positive thing we could possibly do for our community.
Yeah,
That's right.
And I think to find one's place in the community, to be accepted within the community, to be able to do the things that we would like to do, to find the strategies and the supports that we need in order to engage as fully as we possibly can. That, to me, that's another part of acceptance.
I agree. Well said. Well said to both of you. Well, I do want to keep us on schedule. And so before I pass it back to my co-host, Carol, I just want to thank you all very much for participating. We will take the rest of the questions that you submitted and see if we can craft maybe some written communication and provide you a copy of the plan that we went through with you here today. You have my commitment that we will do that, and you can be looking for that in your inboxes in the days ahead. But Carol, with that, I'm going to pass it back to you to bring us home.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining in today, for being part of the brain injury community, for all that everyone does, because we are a community, a family, that none of the work gets done alone. We are all in this together. And so I so appreciate what everybody does, and I look forward to the work ahead. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of our presenters. And I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon and an evening. And best to each of you for a wonderful holiday season. So thank you. Good night.